A few minutes later, Milton emerged from the shop, his arms casually folded behind his back, a calm and peaceful smile gracing his face. He began to stroll leisurely down the corridor, his demeanor composed and tranquil. Suddenly, Chowchow appeared, her fists clenched tightly, her expression tinged with anger and frustration. She pointedly declared that no one on the third floor had seen Poppy. Her voice was firm and filled with authority, conveying her certainty and agitation. Hearing her words, Milton's consciousness snapped out of his trance-like state. His attention immediately shifted to her, and a flicker of curiosity crossed his face. He closed his eyes briefly, sighed softly, and with a serene, almost placid expression, he feigned surprise as if he had just realized something. He admitted, in a gentle tone, that perhaps he had misheard or misunderstood, subtly hinting that eavesdropping on others' conversations was not very courteous or proper. Meanwhile, Shia Sha began to scan her surroundings intently, her eyes widening in confusion and suspicion. She was at a loss. She didn't know where Lu Shang had gone. Her mind raced back to the moment she remembered him talking with Milton, but now, that figure was nowhere to be seen. Milton remained silent, his eyes slowly opening, and with a calm, knowing smile, he explained that Lu Shang had been called away on urgent business and had left just moments earlier. His words, however, only served to ignite Xiao Zhao's rage further. Her eyes shone with fury, and she couldn't suppress her anger at the thought that Lu Shang had left without so much as a farewell, leaving her behind. Her fists clenched tighter, and with a fierce expression etched on her face, she declared that she knew Milton always did the same, disappearing without explanation. Milton observed her silently, a faint, contemplative smile on his face, uncertain of what to say. After a moment's pause, he offered her a kind promise that the next time they saw their friend, he would invite him out for a meal to ease her mind. Xiao Sha hesitated, her frustration simmering beneath the surface, then decided to turn away and leave. Milton's gaze remained fixed on her, his expression curious and thoughtful. He gently inquired about her destination, his tone mild yet inquisitive. Chowchow, without turning back, began to walk away from him, replying that she was headed home. Her steps were brisk, and her whole body radiated a fiery intensity. Steam seemed to rise from her head as her fury boiled over. Milton watched her go in silence, a look of calm contemplation on his face. Then, quietly, he began to walk through the room, approaching the windows. With a serene, distant gaze, he looked out over the city below, lost in his thoughts. Outside the building, Chowchow was already heading toward a waiting vehicle. Milton's eyes followed her, his expression serious, as if he believed that, sooner or later, she would come to understand his actions. Every decision he'd made, he thought, was ultimately for her own good. His eyes shimmered with a sense of solemnity and resolve. He then asked softly, almost in himself, when Lan Che was scheduled to arrive. His subordinate approached and replied in a calm tone that Lan Che would land the next day at 3 p.m., docking at number 001. Milton adjusted his monocle thoughtfully, then instructed his subordinate to go and receive Lan Che in advance, also taking Chowchow along. The subordinate hesitated for a moment, mentioning that Chowchow was not in the best mood right now. Milton paused, silent for a moment, then with a composed expression, told him to simply say that it was an order from their father, that she couldn't always do as she pleased. He understood that her independence was limited and that she could not always act on her own whims. Milton's mind wandered to the girl's upbringing. Raised for more than 20 years within the protective walls of a greenhouse, she was regarded as having matured long ago. He believed that her encounters with few people had kept her sheltered and naive. If she was to meet someone as extraordinary as Lan Che, he thought, she wouldn't be so easily captivated by insignificant beings. His fists clenched tightly, his eyes widening with a sudden surge of fury. To him, Lu Shang was nothing more than a peasant, a mere outsider, who had the audacity to cross into their world relying solely on charm and good looks to climb the social ladder of the Sha family. He considered it a farce, an insult, to think that this was a chance meeting. He despised the idea that Lu Shang believed everyone in their circle was so naive as to be easily deceived, especially regarding Chowchow. Lost in these thoughts, Milton's subordinate watched him in silence, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, an unusual disturbance interrupted the scene. The ground beneath them began to tremble violently. Both Milton and his subordinate looked around in confusion, their expressions shifting to concern. Milton swiftly turned his head, his eyes filling with fear and bewilderment. Beads of sweat started to form on his forehead as he struggled to understand what was happening. The tremors intensified, and then, in horror, his gaze fixed on something terrifying outside the window. A figure surrounded by a radiant, powerful golden martial energy burst through the window of the floor where Milton stood. The attack was swift and forceful, leaving no room for defense. Milton was caught completely off guard. Before he could react, the energy struck him directly, sending his body hurtling backward. He slammed against the wall with a deafening crash, debris exploding outward as the wall shattered under the force. His subordinate spun around in shock, fists clenched tightly, panic rising in his eyes. With a worried, trembling voice, he asked if Milton was all right. Milton's body was embedded in the wall, the impact leaving a large, jagged hole. His clothes were singed and torn, bits of fabric burning away from the intense energy. He coughed violently, blood spilling from his mouth as he struggled to stay conscious. His breathing was ragged and shallow, almost on the brink of death. As the smoke began to clear, a figure dressed in an elegant suit stepped forward, a man with a commanding presence, Lu Shang. Milton's gaze fixed upon him with a mixture of shock and rage. The man's expression was calm, yet filled with dark intent. Lu Shang stared at Milton coldly, then adjusted his tie casually. Without warning, he launched a brutal accusation, claiming that Milton had mistreated and cruelly murdered his beloved pet porcupine. With fiery determination, he declared his intent to avenge his cherished companion, vowing to tear Milton apart into 1,000 pieces until death. Milton, bloodied and weakened, raised his head weakly, a look of confusion flickering across his face. He managed to ask, voice trembling, for Lu Shang to stop talking nonsense. But before he could finish, Lu Shang's focus sharpened. Gathering his energy, he unleashed a slash of destructive energy, an attack that rapidly advanced toward Milton. Panic surged through Milton. He knew this was dire. Desperately, he tried to dodge, but the attack was inevitable. Just as the energy slash was about to hit him, Milton's loyal subordinate threw himself into the path, raising his arms in a desperate attempt to block the attack. Daring, he shouted, voice full of defiance. Do you even know who you're facing? The slash made contact, exploding into fragments that obliterated the subordinate instantly. His body was torn apart in an instant, leaving nothing behind but a cloud of dust and blood. Milton, trembling and clutching his chest where he felt the searing pain, stared in horror. He couldn't believe that someone at the peak of level 11, Lu Shang's level, could be killed with a single attack. The subordinate's corpse dropped to the ground, lifeless and shattered. Lu Shang, standing arrogantly over the scene, turned to Milton with a cruel smile. He said that he had thought Long was strong, but now he made it clear. Anyone who dared stand in his way in his quest for revenge against Milton would meet the same fate. Fear overtook Milton. He begged him to stop, to not come closer. But Lu Shang grabbed Milton by the neck, squeezing tightly, causing the latter to sweat and writhe in pain. Lifting him off the ground, Lu Shang's grip tightened even further. His body was surrounded by martial energy as he looked down at Milton with a dark, threatening gaze. He then spoke coldly, his voice laced with venom, telling Milton that he should have anticipated this moment when he killed his porcupine, questioning if he knew how many years she had been with him. Tears welled up in Lu Shang's eyes as he revealed that she was 150 years old, more than a century of companionship. He demanded to know why Milton had left her alone, considering her an old saw. His voice trembled with sadness and rage as he questioned Milton's motives, asking whether such acts still made him a true inhabitant of stellar space. A crowd of onlookers had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Curiosity piqued. They pressed closer to see what was happening. Lu Shang's eyes flashed with fury as he turned to them. He activated his mental powers, causing a wave of energy to ripple outward through the air. The crowd's attention was instantly captivated, their murmurs rising in confusion and anger. They questioned Milton's humanity, criticizing how he could show such cruelty to a 150-year-old porcupine. They identified him as Milton, the eldest son of the noble Ziz family, and expressed their disgust for his tastes and behavior. Some muttered that although he appeared refined, he was nothing more than a beast unworthy of their respect. deserving only to be cast aside on a trash planet. Milton's mouth foamed with rage and desperation, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief as he looked at the crowd. Lu Shang's grip on his neck tightened further, forcing Milton's mouth open as he screamed in agony, tears streaming down his face. The expanding energy from Lu Shang's mental assault caused chaos all around, and Milton observed him closely, unable to speak or defend himself. He couldn't comprehend when he had killed a 150-year-old Saw. As tears blurred his vision, Lu Shang's voice echoed with grief and fury, assuring her that he would soon kill Milton to avenge her. His expression was full of unwavering determination. Then, Lu Shang focused his energy into his fist, preparing to deliver the final blow. "This is over," he declared coldly. "Milton Nicholas, confess your sins amid endless suffering and death." But at that moment, Milton, trembling and desperate, clenched his teeth and shouted desperately, begging him to wait. He had something to say. Lu Shang, unyielding, made it clear that further words would be useless and prepared to strike. In that critical instant, Milton revealed a crucial truth. His real name was Milton Shea from the Cease family, not Milton Nicholas. Lu Shang hesitated, his grip loosening slightly as he processed this new information. Milton began to gasp heavily, feeling a strange sense of relief. Lu Shang played it off as confusion, asking with a puzzled look what his true name was. Blood still oozing from his mouth, Milton managed to say that his name was Milton Zis. Lu Shang clenched his fists tightly, glaring at him with furious intensity, demanding that he speak louder. Terrified, Milton hurriedly placed his hand on his chest, eyes filled with fear, and desperately insisted again that he was Milton Zis, son of Count Zeiss. Lu Shang was unconvinced and pointed at him with a stern, accusing finger, demanding proof, some form of identification. Milton quickly retrieved his ID card and handed it over. Lu Shang examined it carefully, confirming Milton's identity. Just as several spaceships were already approaching their destination, Lu Shang touched his head with a nervous smile and admitted, with a hint of regret, that it was a mistake. He had mistaken Milton for someone else. He said he would go find the actual Milton Nicholas to seek revenge and promised to invite Milton out for a meal another time. With a courteous, apologetic bow, he left, retreating into the shadows. Milton let out a sigh of relief, feeling as if he had narrowly escaped a catastrophe. The absurdity of being mistaken for someone else, especially someone as noble as Milton Nicholas, and being targeted for revenge over such a mix-up, struck him as utterly ridiculous. Someone from the crowd then stepped forward, having investigated the matter, and confirmed loudly that he was indeed Milton Cease, son of Count Cease. Milton turned toward him, eyes widening in disbelief. The man, holding a communicator, brought his hand close to his mouth and, with a tone full of contempt, remarked that he couldn't believe a son of a noble family like that would indulge in such shameful behavior. He admitted he had heard whispers about the peculiar tastes of some high-ranking nobles, but had never truly believed them until now. This revelation provoked a wave of scorn and disgust among the crowd, who began whispering and murmuring among themselves. Milton, overwhelmed, tried to deny everything. He rushed toward them, shouting that they were all mistaken, that he wasn't that Milton and hadn't done anything wrong. But before he could finish, one of them struck him hard across the face, demanding that he stop lying and recognizing the truth. Milton crumpled to the ground, clutching his cheek, trembling violently, sweat pouring down his face in panic, slipping into shock. The man in glasses pointed a finger at him, voice full of rage, emphasizing that everyone had heard him admit his identity. He was Milton Cease, the son of Count Cease. Then, unexpectedly, Milton burst into wild, uncontrollable laughter, swearing that he hadn't done anything wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. But his words fell on deaf ears as the crowd's contempt grew stronger. And that was it for this chapter. Please leave a like and comment. Your comments help boost my videos. Even commenting an emoji would do. Thanks.